Hello friends, in the last class we did different theories of the state. Today, the last theory of state is the post-colonial state, or we will do the theory of post-colonial state. So first of all, when we are studying the theory of post-colonial state, which state are we studying? We are studying the states in third world. Fine. So now this word, third world, has become redundant because it emerged in context of the Cold War, when the capitalist world was first world, the communist world was second world, and the third world were the NAM countries. Now, since most of these countries have been poor, third world represent the poor states. Third world term is used for the developing states or the poor states, poor countries. Fine. For example, understanding the nature of a state in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Syria, Latin American countries like Venezuela. Okay. So, first of all, write which states are post-colonial states. Which states are post-colonial states. Which states are post-colonial states? So the answer is states which had colonial past. Means which were once the colonies of the imperial powers. Now, US, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, they were also colonies once. But we do not put the states in these countries in the definition of post-colonial states. Okay? We don't put them because undoubtedly they were colonies once upon a time. But they are not colonies, or they have been, they have overcome the colonial past. They themselves became colonizers. Fine. So the post-colonial state is which had colonial past plus which continue the colonial legacy. Which continue the colonial legacy. For example, India will be treated as a post-colonial state, but US, Canada will not be treated as the post-colonial state. Okay? Right? Quam Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah, former President of Ghana. Former President of Ghana held that these states are under neo-colonialism. These states are under neo-colonialism or neo-imperialism. Fine. Now, how to study these states? Fine. Now the question is method of study. Method of study. The study of these states is a part of comparative politics. Comparative politics as a discipline primarily developed after Second World War when decolonization has happened, and it is for these societies that behavioral approach was developed. Why? Because institutional approach was not sufficient to understand these societies. Now, institutional approach means understanding the nature of the state with the study of constitutions. And in methodology topic, I had told you that in these countries, constitutions exist, but states are not run according to the constitution. And that is why we needed behavioral methods. There was a need that political scientists not only study their constitutions, political scientists also study their societies, their culture, their economic systems to make sense of the politics in these countries. For example, we cannot understand the functioning of democracy in India without understanding Indian society. In Indian society, if we do not understand caste, how caste plays the role in democracy, you do not have any such thing in the Western world. Okay, so understanding these societies, understanding their economies is important. Fine. So the question is how to study, what methods of study have been employed. So these states have been studied by two methods. First, behavioral approaches and the Marxist approaches. Marxist approaches and behavioral approaches. Behavioral approaches means Western. So behavioralism developed in US, so by Western approaches and by Marxist approaches. Fine. So let us see understanding of post-colonial societies by Western approaches. Western, you can say behavioral approaches. So the approaches applied here are political development approach, political modernization approach. Fine. Now, these approaches we will study under the topic of comparative politics approaches. So, we will not go into the detail of these approaches at present. This topic is again repeated in comparative politics. Fine. So, political development approach. In short, I am saying, you can just write that in political development approach, we see how much a country is politically developed. We see how much a country is politically developed. So we are not seeing how much a country is economically developed. We are seeing how much a country is politically developed. When you see, say, a country politically developed, it denotes democracy. Okay? So, if a country moves from authoritarianism towards democracy, we will say country is politically developed. So in economic terms, China is more developed than India, because here we are looking things in terms of GDP. But in political terms, India is more developed than China, because China is authoritarian and India is democratic. Fine. The detail of this we will see in comparative government. Now, in political modernization, approach, economic factors are considered, means the level of industrialization in a country, the level of urbanization in the country. So right, in political modernization, economic factors are taken into consideration. Economic factors are taken into consideration. So we see here the level of urbanization, level of industrialization, so this you will understand in detail in comparative politics. Fine. So now some of the important works from this perspective. Fine. Right. Some of the important works. Fine. So what we are going to study? We are going to study the nature of the state in a post-colonial societies by using political development and political modernization approach. Fine. So here there is one important work of a thinker known as F.W. Riggs. F.W. Riggs. Right. Riggs used political development and political modernization approach. Riggs used political, or you can simply write political development approach, and Riggs called states in post states in post-colonial societies as prismatic societies. Fine. So, BRICS has used political development approach and called these societies as prismatic societies. Okay. So instead of calling them state, because they do not fulfill all the features of the state as found in the Western countries, these scholars prefer to use the term societies, and they called these as prismatic societies. Now write, what does prismatic society denotes? What does prismatic societies denote? Fine. So prismatic societies denote societies in transition. Prismatic society denotes societies in transition. Transition from undeveloped towards developed, from authoritarian towards democracy. So in the middle we can say developing societies. So he used the phrase developing societies or prismatic societies means societies which are in the state of transition from undeveloped to developed, means which are developing, which are in the state of transition. Okay? Means they exhibit the features of both. They exhibit the features of both, means of developed plus developing. They exhibit the features of both developed as well as developing. Okay? Now, so why the term prismatic? So this has been taken from the concept of prism. Fine. As you know that in behavioral approach, scholars tried to use scientific methods. So using the concept of prism. So what is prism? So in the prism, if a light passes through the prism, it gets diffracted. Fine. So before this, light is fused, all colors, but when the prism, when the light goes through the prism, violet. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So it gets diffracted. You can see the 7 colors, but here you see partly fused and partly diffracted. So we call it as a prismatic societies. Fine? Means societies in the state of transition. Okay? So Ricks called the states in post-colonial societies or in third world countries as prismatic societies, means the societies in transition reflecting neither entirely the features of undeveloped societies nor entirely the features of developed societies. Now the next scholar you can write about is Gunnar Myrdal. Gunnar Myrdal. His famous book is Asian Drama. Asian Drama. And here he has studied the states in India, Indonesia, fine, and he called India a soft state. He called India a soft state. Fine. So he studied the state of India and called India a soft state. So now, what is soft state? So what is the role of the state? The role of a state is the maintenance of law and order. Fine. And what will be the soft state, which is poor in maintaining law and order? The another extreme will be the failed state, means no law and order, complete anarchy. Fine. So the soft state means state is soft on criminals. State is soft on criminals. If state is soft on criminals, means criminals will not be punished. State will not be punishing the criminals. It means poor law and order situation. Poor law and order situation. Almost like an anarchy, but not complete anarchy like Syria at present, or Libya at present, or Somalia, but some level of state, but almost anarchy. So Indian state is a soft state, means it is easy to defy law and you can easily get out of the clutches of law if you are a criminal. And unfortunately, if we see the profile of parliamentarians at present, we can say that around 43% or 46% of the MPs have criminal background or have been accused of criminal background, means around half of Indian parliament consists of a persons coming from criminal background. You can just imagine the nature of a state. You yourself can imagine the law and order situation. So if a person's like Sengar is in the legislature of a state, if he's an MLA and MP, you can think about what will be the situation of the law and order, what will be the situation of the women. Fine. So they predict that, or they suggest that these states are the soft states. These are soft state because they are soft on crimes, criminals. Fine. But you can say that Gunnar Myrdal study is no more relevant because now almost 50% of the criminals Indian state has been overtaken by the criminals. Christopher Jeffrey Lott, a very important political analyst who writes in Indian Express, in his book has written that in India, people are not under the rule of law. They are under the rule of money or muscle power. So in India, jiski latri has law does not exist. Okay, so this is what poor law and order situation. Now he has also given reason as to why state is soft on criminals. The most important reason is corruption or bribe. Because in India, you can easily come out of the crime if you pay the bribe to the politicians, to the judiciary, to the bureaucrats. So you can easily come out clean. It's not that people don't know that you have committed a crime, but because you have power to bribe, you can come out of crime. Now, what is the consequence of this? What is the consequence of soft state? The consequence of the soft state is poor law and order. And if law and order is poor, obviously poor economic growth and development. Because people from foreign countries, they will fear investing their money. They will fear that the dispute settlement mechanism in India will have its own set of problems. So this always impact the prospects of India's poverty alleviation programs. Okay. So now let us do Marxist perspective. Within Marxism, there are two perspectives. One is instrumentalist and the other is structuralist. Instrumentalist and structuralist. So let us see instrumentalist perspective. So instrumentalist perspective means a state as an instrument of the capitalist class. So instrumentalist perspective in case of post-colonial states is also known as theories of development of underdevelopment. Theories of development of underdevelopment. Underdevelopment means poverty. So theories of the development of underdevelopment means development or increase in poverty. So theories of development or underdevelopment, they are also called as dependency theories. Dependency theories. Okay? Right. These theories, dependency theories, are based on Lenin's theory of imperialism. Lenin's theory of imperialism. Fine. So, according to Lenin, imperialism is colonialism. Imperialism is colonialism. Okay. What is colonialism? In some other class also, I have told that imperialism. In India, we have seen two types of imperialism. First, we have seen Mughal imperialism, and second, we have seen British imperialism. Okay? Mughal imperialism, it was not colonialism. Mughals didn't make India their colony. Fine. Mughals made India their home. Mughals have not taken the wealth out of India, but the British made India their colony. Colony means drain of wealth. So I told you how bacteria makes colony inside our body and takes the blood, sucks the blood. Fine. So same thing. Colony means drain of wealth, which has resulted into what? British becoming rich day by day and India going poor day by day. Okay. So what was happening? There was unequal exchange. Means both the two parties are not benefiting. There was an equal exchange. Mughals, they brought their rich culture, tradition, Mughal conquest, that wealth also came. But the British, it was an unequal exchange where British became rich at the cost of Indians and Indians became poor. This unequal exchange resulted into uneven development, unequal development means development of Britain and development of underdevelopment or poverty in India. Fine. And when the situation is not of the mutual gains, if it is mutual, we call it as interdependence, and when it is not mutual, we call it as dependence. Okay, so dependency. So this theory of instrumentalist theory is influenced by Lenin's theory of imperialism and is called as theory of development of underdevelopment. So right, according to this theory, colonialism has not ended, right? According to this theory, colonialism has not ended but is present in the new form. It means even after independence, the drain of wealth is continuing. So even after independence, the drain of wealth is continuing. Fine. The impact of the drain of wealth is the growth of poverty, or the growth of poverty, or the failure of post-colonial states in eradication of poverty. The failure of post-colonial states in eradicating poverty. Fine.